Welcome back to the Woodgrafter. This little baby here is the drill guide from UJK, an Axminster brand. £169. Is it worth it? Stick around and we'll find out. So welcome back to the Woodgrafter. Today we're going to have a look at the UJK drill guide from Axminster. This allows you to use any of your standard drills and drill holes accuracy at a variety of angles, or at least that's the promise of the overall device. So why on earth would you want one of these, and why would you want to spend the best part of £170 of your hard-earned cash on such a device? Well, these things are really useful, and the simple way of thinking about the use case, if you're ever in a situation where you need to take your drill to the material or to the project rather than your project to the drill, i.e. a pillar drill or a press drill, and you need to drill accurate holes either at 90 degrees or a variety of angles, then this is the perfect tool for the job. And when we look at a price budget of £170 we think, oh my god, that is so expensive, is it worth it? Look at the competition. If you go to Amazon and you were to put into the Amazon search drill press, you're going to see these things, but god, they're rubbish. They're made of plastic, they're flimsy, they're rubbish. As you go up the scale into the 20 to 30 sort of pounds, they do start to come along in aluminium, but then read the reviews, they're not accurate, they wobble, they don't hold your drill stable. But if you go to the far end of the spectrum and go and look at woodpeckers, they also do a very nice drill press, and that's going to cost you a cool £400, thereabouts, slightly less, shipped into the UK to get it into your workshop. £400. Festool do a nice device, which obviously works incredibly well with Festool tools and Festool drills if you're locked into that brand, and that's about the sort of 300, 350 mark if you can get hold of one. But both the woodpecker one and the Festool ones are as rare as, hard to get hold of, and they command a premium price. And are they good? 100%. So when you see something in the market for £169, £170, and you compare it to that range, that's got the promise and the reputation and the reviews to say it's a quality product, £170 suddenly sounds reasonable, does it not? So it's a midpoint price for this type of tools, and we're going to explore the quality and see whether it's any good or not. So let's start by unpackaging this thing and getting the thing built up. Here's the packaging, brown corrugated packaging, very sturdy, very strong, should protect the kit inside it. Usual marketing information that we will ignore for now, but you can see that on the website if you so wish, and all these wonderful pictures of this thing being used in anger to perfection. Let's get inside and see what we've got. This is what it looks like. We've got the machine itself here, literature, chuck key, some spanners. So I'll get this out. First thing is there's a rubber handle, some paperwork, couple of spanners, chuck key, plastic knob, the machine, and that's it. So great, no plastics in here at all. I really do hate polystyrene and plastics inside shipping material, so it's good to see that all this is recyclable if you like that sort of thing. So there's no assembly instructions as such with this. There's this piece of paper here that just tells you how to use it and gives you a bit of marketing around the optional accessory, which is a vise. And then there's this piece of paper here that gives you the drill guide assembly diagram and then a parts list on the back along with parts numbers, which I guess is useful. But I think assembly is quite simple. It's easy as banging these two handles on. Just looking at the diagram, there's no nuts here, and that's important because it's got two nuts here, one here and one here. I think they're just packing to keep it correct while it's in the box. So I'm just going to drop those out, and then I can drop this in. These just simply screw on. Right, so in terms of features, these two handles, you just simply twist them and then that allows you to adjust the angle. Super simple, and just nip that down again. The carriage here obviously goes up and down. I mean, you'd want that to go up and down, right? It's a drill guide. Here inside this top red piece here, there are two what looks like brass inserts. So this is obviously self-lubricating, and it is incredibly light action. So that's not sticking or binding in any way, shape or form. And even at the top, it's stable. It's no wobble or no play in this. It's very, very stable. This is obviously where your drill goes, and this obviously takes a number of different drills. It's a standard size, so a chuck from a drill will come in here, but it's also got that, this is called the Centronics attachment from a Festool, so the Festool drill will just clip onto there with no great dramas, which is pretty good. This is a 10mm chuck. It looks like a big sturdy beast, and it seems to run to the naked eye very true. There's no wobble inside that. And although you might look at that and say I'd rather have a hands-free one, that makes sense because it's quite hard, thinking about it, to hold a drill and get your hand in here to tighten this up. So that sort of chuck assembly does make sense in this situation. It's got these two little here. These are the depth stops. So you obviously put this to how deep you want to go, and then it's no more drama than just tightening that up. So you drill down to a depth. Simple but effective. You can see on the side here it's got these increments, 0, plus 60, minus 60, and it's got a small guideline here on the frame. Not sure if you can see that or not, but there's a small mark just here on the frame, and setting your angle no harder than lining the guide up on the frame itself with those stops, and then you can tighten that down. There's no positive stop mechanism on here, so it is a matter of by eye lining up the mark on the frame with the scale, but it does come right down to that scale, so I don't think you've got any danger of parallax error. It does have a marking here which is a center point to the bit, and similarly on this side another marking. There's no center point markings on this side of the frame or this side of the frame, but given the fact the angle moves, that probably does make a modicum of sense. And it also has these little sticky up bits here, and that's for taking a round object, piece of dowel, chair leg, whatever it might be, that then obviously allows you to drill this on an irregular shape, which is pretty good. The base is open. We've got a cutout there, elongated cutout, to allow for the angles that you want to drill, and obviously you're drilling through here into your material. Hiding away in the top here, there's these two what look like bolts. They're actually centering pins, and with a suitable weapon you can just simply take those out. And then on the base here there's these threaded holes, and you can put these centering pins into those threaded holes, and then that allows you to center onto a piece of wood, and we'll test that out to see how accurate that is shortly. I like the fact these have storage inside. It would have been nice to have some sort of storage for the chuck key, because that's the sort of thing that everybody loses with their drills, or I'm used to use chuck keys, so there's a good chance that's going to get lost. These two red rubber knobs pop off, and then that allows the chuck assembly to slide out, which would be good for maintenance, etc., or removing those depth stops if you wanted to get a little more depth of cut on that frame. As I say, it will take most sort of drills quite happily, including this Ryobi drill. It's a bit awkward to get your hands in here. I don't think my hands are overly fat, and I've got a reasonable length finger, so if you had short stubby hands I think you might struggle a bit, but that's where this also comes in handy, where you can pop this off, tighten down your drill to make sure it's good, and then you can pop the frame back on, and there's no dramas with that. It's quite easy to do, and once you're in there you can get the idea. Obviously a well lubricated bearing shaft inside here. Whatever you do here transfers down to here. It's a direct drive, so there's no gearing or ratios inside there. So there you go, that's it, unboxed, assembled, that's what you get in the kit. They're the key features. With the main features out of the way, let's put this through its paces and see if it's any good in use. Now this is a 10mm chuck, so I'm going to test it with a 10mm bit. This will take obviously any bit that's got a 10mm shaft, which I think from memory takes you to around about a 20mm Forstner bit. When you go above the 20mm you tend to get to 12 and 15mm shafts, so it won't go really beyond that 20mm capacity. Now this is not going to be a scientific test. I'm just going to basically drill some holes in a piece of wood. And what I want to test is the use of the centering guides to see whether it does indeed center this thing. I want to test any deviation in the chuck. Is it running true and centered, or has it got a slight wobble on it? And I want to check the angles at 0 and at 90 degrees. So putting the bit in is no harder than dropping the carriage off and using the chuck key, opening this to its 10mm setting. Just going to use one of these depth stops just to stop this dropping down too far, and then I can drop on the carriage. Now obviously straight away this is not stable on this, so you can see it's wobbling around a little bit, but let's give it a go. Well, it certainly managed to drill the hole, and if that's in the centre as it should be from the centering system we used, the distance from this edge to that hole there, this edge to that hole there, should be the same. So I'll say not scientific, but it'll give us an indication. So if I measure from the outside of that hole to the edge, I get 16.44mm. And from this edge to that side, I get 16.75mm. So 0.3mm difference, so 0.15mm variance, which is about what, 1/50th of an inch, broad brush thinking. So that's not too bad. It's more enough in the center, and I think that's probably due to the fact that when you've got all this weight hanging off this and you're trying to rest it on a narrow piece of stock, it's not super stable, and that probably just allows for that variance, but that's not too bad. So what I'll now do, I'll just draw a line to find the centre of this stock, and this is 43, so I'll do 21 and a half. So this is more or less my centre line. So with that centre line on our piece of wood, I'm just going to line it up to the white reference marks on the base of this. And I've just put two pieces of wood of similar dimensions on either side, and that just gives me stability on that frame. And I'm just going to come in and just put a little bit of clamping pressure on that base to help. In theory, this should now drill directly on that line. And I could see when I was drilling it, the brad on the drill bit was directly on the line, so I know that's lined up to that line. So that seems to be okay enough. So the final thing, I just want to try that angle, that 45-degree angle. And again, I'm going to use that same technique. I want to line up those marks, bit of helpful clamping pressure, and I'm just going to adjust this down to that 45mm mark, which would be there. I'm just purely relying on the gauge. So I've taken the drill bit and I've dropped it into that hole that we've just drilled, and in theory this angle here should be 45 degrees. And to check that, I'm going to come in with a known 45-degree angle on my bench dog's precision triangle, and that there is pretty much bang on. A little bit out, but we're talking fractions of a degree, so that's not too bad. And again, for the tolerances we want to work with, that's pretty good. Now I've dropped the drill bit into the first hole we did. Remember, that was a centering one, so there's a chance there was some play in this hole because it wasn't perfectly secure. So I'm going to come in now again with the known square. Wow, gosh, and that's perfect. That's touching all the way down, so that's actually a pretty bang on 90-degree angle. Now this is the other 90-degree hole that we drilled. This is one we clamped, remember. And again, coming in with a square. Yeah, that's pretty good. So accuracy wise, that seems to have done the job. Now I just want to check to see if the chuck has any deviation, because if that chuck's wobbling, then it's going to be wider than the diameter of this drill bit, and we know this is 10mm, but I've never measured this, so just coming in with the calipers, this is actually 10mm. Wow, that's a Bosch drill bit, bang on 10mm. Okay, so looking for about 10mm, and this hole here is is about 10.01, and this hole here is also about 10.0103. So about 0.1, 0.3 millimeter deviation on a 10 millimeter bit. I think I'll take that any day. So this is an 18 millimeter dowel, and I'm just simply rest it on those two dowel stops. 5 millimeter bit for no apparent reason. I'm just going to set the depth stops because I don't particularly want to drill down into my bench, and let's see what happens. And there we have a hole right through the middle of the dowel. No dramas whatsoever. So there you go, the UJK drill guide from Axminster. Solidly made device, smooth running chuck with minimum deviation inside it. Adjustable angles from 60 to 60 degrees. No incremental stops, but the gauge does seem to read incredibly accurately according to our tests. It's as accurate as you like, good enough for what we need in woodworking. Nice stable frame and guide marks here to line your work up. It's super light, super portable, and it's a device I could see myself just grabbing and using in a number of different situations. Perfect for my small workshop where I don't have any more room left for tools, so therefore there's no drill press in my future. So to give me that accuracy in my work, I think is going to be really useful. So for £169, midpoint in that range, but you get a lot of features and a lot of accuracy for your money. So this is staying in my workshop, and it's a welcome addition to my tools. Hope you found this useful, and I'll see you soon on the Woodgrafter. Take care.